2024, I was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. As a healthy non-smoker, a wife and mother, and a doctor of Chinese medicine who'd spent decades helping patients heal, it felt shocking and deeply ironic. Welcome to Healthier Than Ever, a podcast about healing, resilience, and living well even in the face of serious illness. I'm glad you're here. Welcome to Healthier Than Ever, a podcast exploring the intersection of evidence-based medicine, holistic care, and the lived human experience of illness. I'm your host, Dr. Toni Balfour, and today I'm joined by Karla Mans Giroux, Managing Director of the Radical Remission Project and co-host of the Stories That Heal podcast, co-founder of Health Navigators, a virtual cancer wellness community. Karla is also a stage 4 breast cancer survivor whose personal experience with healing eventually led her to becoming deeply involved in the radical remission research and community. For listeners who may not be familiar, the Radical Remission Project grew out of research led by Dr. Kelly Turner, examining cases of people who experienced unexpected recoveries from cancer and identifying common factors in how they lived their lives. As both a physician and cancer patient myself, I found radical remission incredibly meaningful because it didn't promise a single solution. Instead, it looked at real people and asked these deeper kinds of questions about what patterns emerge in how people live and heal and find meaning during serious illness. Karla, I am so grateful to have you here today.
Well, thank you, Toni. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. And first, I'd like to talk about just kind of your story, your background with cancer and who you were when you first got diagnosed. Like, were you into healing before your diagnosis?
Yeah, it goes back a long time to
Great.
2003. I
Mm-hmm.
was 37 years old when I was
Mm-hmm.
diagnosed with breast cancer. My sons were only 2 and 5.5, or 5 and 2.5, something like that. They were little.
Yeah.
And I was not into holistic health. I thought I was healthy. I
Mm-hmm.
was fit. I was young, but I didn't know any better. And I did what I felt like I needed to do to survive, to be able to raise those two little boys. So I ended up
Mm.
doing chemotherapy. Well, I did the surgery first. I had a
Yeah.
bilateral mastectomy, then
Mm.
the chemotherapy, then radiation. And then they said, bye bye, good luck. Take this tamoxifen pill for 5 years and,
Yeah.
hope for the
Mm-hmm.
best.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was busy raising those boys and had a young career that I was developing, I did get really busy and just went back to living my life. And
Right.
when I did hit my 10th cancer anniversary, I thought I was
Yeah.
safe. I'm like, oh, good. I've hit a
Sure.
10-year mark. This is great. It's a big milestone. I don't have to worry anymore. And cancer had receded and receded in my mind, right? The fear and all of it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But I got a big surprise at 11 years to the month
Mm.
after the original diagnosis. I got a metastatic diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
So cancer had come back. Unbeknownst to me, didn't even dawn on me that might be what it was. But I had a
Mm-hmm.
symptom. My
Mm-hmm.
leg was going numb, and eventually it started to fall out from underneath me. So I thought it was a
Yeah.
pinched nerve, worked with a chiropractor. Chiropractor
Sure.
said, go see a radiologist, took x-rays, your leg's fine,
Mm-hmm.
everything's good, go see a
Wow.
neurologist. Yeah, the
Mm.
neurologist finally, after an excruciating nerve test, thank you very much,
Yeah.
finally did an MRI.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately called me on a Friday afternoon to say, due to your history, there's some really suspicious spots up and down your spine.
Wow.
So that's not good news to get ever. And it,
Yeah.
certainly I knew immediately that, oh my God, cancer. I didn't even think about cancer, and it's cancer. And it was a
Mm,
Friday afternoon. Where do I turn? Well,
yeah.
he had called my primary care practitioner,
Mm-hmm.
and he said, she's waiting to hear from you. And I called her, and she said, get your husband and come on in and we'll talk. And so I knew it was really serious.
Yeah.
And yet there was really nothing she could do either.
Mm-hmm.
And we spent an excruciating weekend
Yeah.
trying not to let our teenage boys know that there was something going on.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, they were probably too into video games or whatever, themselves, to really notice that mom and dad were a mess.
Right.
But it was the following week when I talked to my oncologist, and he said, this is a chronic disease we can manage. I was
Mm.
blown away, because here I thought I had
Yeah.
a death sentence on my hands. I thought, this
Sure.
is it. How much longer do I have to live? What letters should I
Mm-hmm.
write to my sons? What am I going to,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he
Your mind
says
goes there
that,
so fast, right?
oh, immediately. Don't,
Yeah.
we all hear
We're
cancer.
conditioned. Yeah.
We just think cancer equals death. And it's
Yeah.
not the case so much anymore.
Yeah.
Yes, some people do die
Yeah.
from their
Yeah.
diagnosis, but there are
Mm-hmm.
many, many, many of us that are overcoming it or living with it. And
Yes.
so, yeah. So when he told me that this is chronic
Mm-hmm.
disease we can manage, and to
Mm-hmm.
be fair, it was also a hormone receptor positive, HER2
Mm-hmm.
negative breast cancer. So not the most serious of breast cancers.
Right.
Not that any cancer isn't serious, but just
Yeah. And
there are some that are,
metastatic, it,
mm,
yeah. So it had
yeah,
metastasized to your bone.
yep. It was all over the bones of the torso,
Mm. Wow.
and it was actually growing in such a way, it was literally pinching a nerve. It was
Ah,
growing in a bone, in in the nerve pathway, so that the
right.
nerve itself was getting pinched off. So that's the good news, because I found it.
Yeah.
I found it
Yeah.
early.
Right. And that
And
your chiropractor referred you out. I mean,
mhm,
that's great.
yep,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And then it's also good news, because then I could see when the symptoms started to recede. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
jumping ahead there a little bit.
No,
But
that's great. Yeah.
yeah, I decided I was going to manage the hell out of this diagnosis. And
Mm-hmm.
so I don't think my conventional oncologist really knew what he was getting into when he said that to me, or how
Right.
far I would take that. Because in
Yeah.
his mind, it was just, here's the medicine you
Ma-
should take.
right. Managing it with
And
medicine.
yeah, and when that one stops working, we have another one, and then we have another one, and then we have another one.
So when did you know that there might be other possibilities? Was that quick that you found like, oh, we could do a more integrative or incorporate holistic approaches as well? Or how did that happen for you?
Yeah, almost immediately. I went back to my
Mm.
therapist. I said, you know what? I said I didn't need you, but I do.
Yeah.
I had just taken a break from her, like before the holidays, and got this diagnosis in November. And when I started going back to her to help me emotionally, she said, I know a woman that's a cancer coach. I didn't know there
Well,
was any such thing. This was
yeah.
2014. And
Yeah.
so I immediately reached out and connected with this
Mm-hmm.
woman and hired
Mm-hmm.
her to be my cancer coach. And boy, did I learn
Fantastic.
a lot from her. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Did she introduce you to radical remission or
Actually,
was that a
I
later?
don't think that was her. I think what she
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
introduced me to was a
Yeah.
holistic approach. She
Fantastic.
was a registered nurse at working in a
Mm-hmm.
cancer hospital, but in the surgery ward. But she was also in the mind, body, spirit department, helping
Mm-hmm.
people. And interestingly, she had a master's in divinity. So she was a
Oh,
reverend.
wow.
So she had a
Wow.
very, very unique perspective from the nurse, the holistic approach, and the spiritual approach. And so she really helped me to learn a lot about changing my diet and cleaning up my
Mhm.
um, products, my healthcare products,
Yeah.
my household
Mhm.
products, all, detoxing, kind of all of that stuff, taking herbs
Yeah.
and supplements, really getting a
Mhm.
handle on the lifestyle changes that was going to shift this cancer, shift me, my environment, into being inhospitable to cancer.
Right. And it sounds like some of the things that she was incorporating happened to be some of these things that we've learned from radical remission are the
Absolutely.
factors that, yeah, so that's interesting. So later you were introduced to radical remission, and what happened then? Like, you first read the book and you were like, oh, I'm doing some of these things, or what was your
Yeah,
experience with
exactly.
it?
That was exactly it. I found the book, and I don't remember exactly how. It was published in 2014, and
Mm-hmm.
I found it in 2015.
Mm,
And I did look at the table of contents, which is the
right.
chapter list, and it's each of the factors were listed. And I
Yeah.
thought, oh, check, check, check. I'm doing these. And there
Mm-hmm.
were a couple where I thought, oh, I need to dig a little deeper here. I need to learn what this
Mm-hmm.
means. But it
Mm-hmm.
was really validating to look at
Yeah.
what all of these other people had done and know that I was
Mm-hmm.
already doing a lot of it.
Mm-hmm. What were
Yeah.
the things at that time that were sort of like, aha, I need to really work on this sort of thing?
Yeah.
How did that look for you?
The ones that were more probably things I felt like I hadn't really dug into would
Yeah.
have been the releasing suppressed emotions and
Mm-hmm.
utilizing intuition and deepening
Mm.
spirituality.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I was doing a little bit of that with my health coach because of her master's in divinity, and right, but I
Yeah.
didn't really think of it as I'm digging deep here to get to a point where I'm inhospitable to cancer. It was really more of like,
Yeah.
oh, that's interesting. That lines up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
I think
Yeah.
for me, suppressed emotions was definitely one. But I had a hard time sort of wrapping my head around the spirituality part
Mm-hmm.
of the book and everything. In Chinese medicine, we explore the spirit. There's spirit aspects of herbs and spirit aspects of acupuncture points and all these things, but it's so kind of difficult to describe and define. And
Mm-hmm.
we talk about spirit as sometimes not having sort of like a God energy or a divine power energy. But as an individual, when I think about my personal spirituality, that's certainly a big part of it. But it's also a little bit difficult to define my connection. I grew up Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not like a practicing Catholic anymore, so I have a different sort of a belief system, my belief in a higher power. And I'm wondering about the way that you talk to your clients about things like that, when it can mean so many different things for different people, or it can be
Right.
hard to define. Like, how do you talk to your clients about spirituality?
Yeah, my coaching clients are a lot of times very open to spirituality, already down that path, but there are
Mm-hmm.
those folks that are not, or they might be
Yeah.
very religious. And it's really
Mm-hmm.
about just sharing the research that Dr. Turner uncovered. It's
Yeah.
spirituality in a secular perspective, right? So it's
Right.
not about any particular religion. And
Mm-hmm.
the very basic spirituality is there is a higher power. There's something bigger than us. We might find
Mm-hmm.
that in nature. We might
Yeah.
find it through our music or through
Mm-hmm.
dance or writing or art, whatever it might be. So it's really helping people to understand that spirituality isn't about religion.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody can be spiritual, and you can
Mm-hmm.
find your path into that connection in a lot of different ways.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. There is divine energy in small things, and sometimes. Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
look at a flower and you can just be astounded by the
Mm-hmm.
beauty of it and the
Yeah.
inner workings that you don't normally notice when you're just walking by. But if you study it, and you just get that feeling in a
Mm-hmm.
case like that where, wow, something
Yeah.
had a bigger plan.
Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it is one of those gifts of sort of like, having had an experience like cancer, that now when we walk through nature, we can take those moments to really appreciate the flower, the birds, the waves, whatever it is. I think it, you know, I don't know, I guess, are we taught to appreciate them more? Maybe part of it is being taught. Maybe part of it is
I
instinctive.
don't know. I think some of it's
Yeah.
instinctive, and I think that we're
Yeah.
not always taught to appreciate that stuff because I
Mm-hmm.
know, my diagnosis is what taught me to
Yeah.
prioritize things differently
Yeah.
and to look at things differently.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I want to talk a little bit about radical hope did introduce a new factor, which is
Yes.
exercise. And I want to talk to you about, how exercise works into your own life, and how you talk about that with your clients.
Yeah, from Dr. Turner's research, in that first book, exercise didn't come out as one of those common factors everybody was utilizing
Yeah.
because many of those people had been sent home on hospice care. So they
Yeah.
weren't exercising in the traditional sense
Mm-hmm.
of the word. And when she decided, you know what, it's so important. There's so much other research about it that says it prevents cancer, it can help us get through the treatment, it can help us with recurrence, or avoid
Mm-hmm.
recurrence. So she
Yeah.
wanted to go back and look at it. And what she realized was that all of those people were moving their bodies as much as they could when they could. But it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't in the gym, it wasn't running a
Yeah.
marathon, it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
the traditional, very strenuous exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So when she reintroduced, or when she introduced it in Radical Hope, she reintroduced all of the other factors and added exercise. And it is about moving your body. It's more about physical activity than it is about strenuous exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Learn to add movement into your life and add to it each day and do more and
Mm-hmm.
more as you're able to. For me personally, exercise
Yeah.
is not my favorite thing to do.
Me neither. That
This
was
is
the
the
weak
one I
weak
struggle
point
with.
in my. Me too. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And I've been on that exercise, going good, doing well, and then it's like,
Yeah.
fall off, go on vacation for 2 weeks and come back like, it's all falling
Right.
apart.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
I have found that for me, I need to schedule it on my calendar every day. And I kind of live by
Mm-hmm.
my calendar. And so
Mm-hmm.
I make sure that I've got the time blocked so
Yeah.
that I don't go, oh, I'll get to it when I get to it, because then I never get to
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
And for my coaching clients, it just depends. Are they a good, an
Yeah.
exerciser and they love doing it and it's no problem
Yeah.
to add it into their
Mm-hmm.
day? Or are they like me and they need to figure out how to do it and stay consistent? Or do they even
Yeah.
need, like, they've never done it and they've got to start from square one?
Mm-hmm.
Most people are doing some sort of exercise, but a
Yeah.
lot of what I talk about with coaching clients is the perception of any physical activity.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're doing household chores, we're doing yard work, we're gardening,
Yeah.
that's physical
Mm-hmm.
activity and that
Mm-hmm.
counts. So
Yeah.
when people know that it counts and they perceive it to be activity that counts towards their steps or their movement goal on their watch, right?
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
it starts to become a little bit easier to just add a little bit more. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there's a fascinating study by Dr.
Mm.
Ellen Langer at Harvard,
Love
who,
her.
I do too. She's so amazing.
Yeah.
She did a study on chambermaids, hotel maids,
Mm-hmm.
two groups. And these ladies, these people are doing some major physical
Yes.
activity every day in
Yes.
their job. But when they
Yes.
were asked about exercise, they said, no, I don't
Right.
exercise. I'm too tired when I
Right.
get home from work. Well, of course you
Mm-hmm.
are, because you've been so physically active at work. So
Yeah.
they thought of exercise as what you do afterward. When the
Mm-hmm.
researchers took one of the groups and told them all about what they do and how it equals exercise and how many calories they burn or what kind of activity it's like, then after just, I believe it was 4 weeks, their body mass index was lower, their weight was lower, their blood pressure was lower. All these things were happening because this group of women were told this equals exercise and meets the Surgeon General's recommendation.
Yes.
The other group,
yes,
still all the same. So
right.
perception.
They were moving the same way. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So true.
Perception is huge. And it's really about starting small. Just start where you are, do what you can, and go from there. And there's so much free exercise material on the internet that you can try all sorts of different things to find what resonates with you.
Yeah. What do you think about the opposite extreme? People that think that they need to, okay, I've overcome cancer and now I need to, climb mountains and run marathons and do all these things. In Chinese medicine, we look at balance, right? And over exercising isn't
it's not a good idea. Yeah. There's at least one story of a radical remission survivor who was an athlete. Well, there's a couple of stories about the folks that were athletes and really exercising to the extreme. And they had to learn to back off. Like, it doesn't have to be this extreme, because that can be really hard on the body. And I've talked to other doctors who think, it's not necessarily a good idea to go out and start pounding the pavement to run that marathon, because it can be hard on the body. Now, if it's a goal and something you've always wanted to achieve, and maybe you do it, but you don't continue to pound the pavement quite so hard, maybe that's okay. But I'm with you. I think there needs to be balance.
I think that's one of the things about working with a cancer coach like you one-on-one, because, one of the factors is intuition that you mentioned earlier. And when you plug into your intuition, I think you can realize, like, when you're overdoing it and like depleting your vital life force energy more than feeding it, right?
Right. There are those renewing activities and the depleting activities, and it is definitely worth looking at that and making sure there's a balance. Yeah. And intuition is one of the factors that Dr. Turner was like, I don't know how I'm going to really share this. Like, the scientific community might think I'm a little woo-woo. This could be, too much. But it came up in every single one of the interviews that every one of those survivors was utilizing their intuition, whether it spoke up really loudly from the start to say, no, this is not the path for you, or, somehow, they got the big booming voice in their head. And then there were others that needed to learn to hone their intuition and utilize it to help them figure out what their path was. And that's certainly not something that we're taught about our intuition, how to use it. Scientifically, we know everybody has one. It absolutely is there. And there are similar neurons in our brain, also located in our gut. So, and they act independently of each other. So we can have that intuition that comes from the cerebellum, but also the intuition that comes from our gut.
Don't go anywhere. Healthier Than Ever. We'll be right back. One of the things I see again and again is how many people are living in a state of low-level overwhelm, wired, overstimulated, or mentally exhausted. And often the goal isn't to shut that down, but to help the nervous system feel more steady and supported. I've put together a calm and clarity plan with a few of the supports I use most often. Things like magnesium, L-theanine, and gentle adaptogens. You don't need to take everything. You can start with one or two and build from there. If you'd like to explore it, you can go to htever.com/calm. That's htever.com/calm. And as part of this community, you'll receive 20% off anything you choose to order. And as always, check with your medical team before starting anything new. We will have that link in the show notes. Sometimes knowledge can definitely help feed your intuition. So, the more that we learn about healthy eating, for example, the more our intuition can actually like plug in, does this food feel right for me?
Yes.
Which is another area that I'm just curious about with you. Like, tell me about your diet. What do you eat? What do you avoid?
Yeah, the diet question is always the biggest
Mm-hmm.
controversy because you've got
Yeah.
so many people saying this is the way or this is the way, and it's contradictory, right?
Yeah.
What we know from the research is that all of the survivors reduced
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes eliminated the meat, wheat, sweets, and dairy. So
Mm-hmm.
for me,
Mm-hmm.
initially, I kind of went cold turkey and just about drove myself and my husband crazy in trying
Mm-hmm.
to eliminate everything but vegetables. And that
Yeah.
was not a good idea. Lots of
Right.
tears, lots of
Yeah.
struggle, lots of what am I
Yeah.
going to eat? Nuts and seeds and
Mm-hmm.
veggies. And it needs, again, to be balanced.
Yeah.
And there are people that need to eat differently than I do.
Mm-hmm.
There
Mm-hmm.
is not one diet that's right for every single body. So
Definitely.
we each need to determine what's right for us. And I think the intuition
Mm-hmm.
is a great way to help us find that. And
Yeah.
so for me personally, I am
Mm-hmm.
mostly vegan. I don't do any dairy. I
Mm-hmm.
eat a bit of fish and seafood. I make sure
Mm-hmm.
I purchase really high quality. So I almost always, fix it at home instead of eating out, unless
Yeah.
I'm at a really nice, white tablecloth sort of restaurant where I can ask, is this wild caught?
Right.
So I tend to eat the fish and seafood I eat at home,
Mm-hmm.
and there are a lot of veggies in my diet,
Mm-hmm.
and no no sweets really. I try to
Mm-hmm.
do if I want a sweet, it's a keto kind of sweet because then there's no
Mm-hmm.
white sugar in it. It might be
Mm-hmm.
sweetened with honey or 100% maple syrup or something that's a little bit more on the natural side.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think your dietary advice to clients has sort of evolved and changed over time since the book was published? We get more research on foods and anti-cancer foods and things like that. Do you think
Yeah.
that there's been an evolution since that time? Like, have things changed in what you tell
Well, I
people?
think there's small things that have changed, but I mean, I think even back when the book came out and it was really that Mediterranean diet, it may not have
Mm-hmm.
said Mediterranean, but that's kind of
Yeah.
where things are. We know there
Mm-hmm.
are those anti cancer foods, we know there are
Yeah.
those things that we really should add more of. And
Mm-hmm.
I think we've always known that. Um, there's a lot of diet information that comes out that makes people
Yes.
crazy and they
Yes.
just get, it's the one factor that is most confusing for everybody,
Yeah.
stress inducing. So my biggest piece of
Mm-hmm.
advice for people is to
Mm-hmm.
not stress about what you're eating.
Yeah.
It it what you eat matters, but every
Mm-hmm.
single little morsel does not need to be stressed out about. If you
Yeah.
are somewhere and there is nothing I can eat, just eat
Mm-hmm.
what's there and don't
Yeah.
worry about it, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
oh my god, it's good, oh yeah, getting all
Mm-hmm.
upset about it, getting worried about it, stressing out about it is worse for us than just
Yeah.
eating what's available.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
tell patients, and my patient population, it's mainly people with chronic inflammatory skin conditions. So,
Mm.
acne, rosacea, it's a different patient population. But what I tell people is the first focus should be on getting enough good foods or increasing your phytonutrients, your plant
Yes.
nutrients with the vegetables and the variety of vegetables and the variety of colors. Then, you can fine tune the other things. But people are really hard on themselves when they're in the midst of sort of like, a health problem. They want to blame it all on food, and it's rarely just about the food.
Right. I remind people
Right.
it's only
Yeah.
one of 10 healing
Yes. Yeah.
factors.
Yeah.
So let's
Yeah.
put that into perspective.
Yeah.
And the other thing to say about the 10 healing factors from the Radical Remission research, only
Hmm.
3 of them are physical. The other
Yes.
7 are mental,
Yeah.
emotional, and spiritual.
Right.
So we get focused on food because, of course, we eat 3 meals a day, right? And we're like, what am I going to put in my mouth? How am I going to eat? How am I going to do this? And if we could just take that more balanced approach, adding in more vegetables to help sort of crowd out those lesser foods.
Yeah.
And certainly I think it's worth focusing on the ultra processed foods. Like, let's cut those out right away.
Yeah.
Most people, by the time they get to me, they know they needed to cut out the ultra processed foods.
Yeah.
And they're working on that. And then they're just stressing out about, do I eat chicken? Do I eat yogurt? Do I not?
Yeah. I'm a dark chocolate fan, so I eat 85% Taza chocolate pretty regularly.
There you go. And it's okay.
It's good for the soul. Yeah.
There you go. Right. Yeah. And you're probably not eating a whole giant candy bar of it either.
Exactly. No.
Little square.
When it's that dark, a little goes a long way.
That's true. Yes.
Yeah. What about your husband? Does he eat as well as you do?
He will eat what I make, but he does not follow my guidelines when he's not with me.
Yeah, same.
And I keep working on him, and I keep trying to tell him that, it would be better for you. But he's probably getting more plant food than meat and other things. And he's not too terrible with the processed foods. So
yeah. It's something I hear a lot from patients. And again, my patient population is different, but they're like, my husband eats so much worse than I do, but I'm the one who has this fill in the blank, rash, this acne. And, it's as
frustrating.
we said, it's frustrating.
Yeah, it can be frustrating. And I sometimes hear from clients whose husbands are all in, and they've changed the way, and they're doing all the cooking, and they're juicing for them, and they're doing all this great stuff and really keeping them healthy. And I'm like, yay, that's great. And then for those of us that don't have a partner like that, it's okay. You can still do your best on your own. With kids, it gets hard too.
It is.
I always recommend keep a separate cabinet. Like, if you've got a pantry or a different cabinet, you can have their junk is in one thing, right? You may not be able to get your teenagers to stop eating it. And then you have your healthy cabinet. So that's what happens in my kitchen.
A great
I open
idea.
mine. I can see all my healthy options, and their cabinet, I try to stay out of.
I think I've done that in an unplanned way, where there are shelves in the pantry that I just don't go to. I've got a 17-year-old. Yeah.
So, it gets easier to not like, okay, you got cookies and chips on that shelf, but I don't care anymore. I don't need that.
Yeah. It becomes not tempting.
Yeah.
And I don't know, do you ever use the Yuka app where you can
I do. Yep.
Yeah. So there were Girl Scout cookies in my house. I don't want to disparage the Girl Scouts though, but
no, they're great. But
they did get a 0 on the Yuka app. That's just between you.
I bet they did.
Anyway. Yes. Yeah. So we don't eat that stuff. But I've heard you talk about on podcasts and things how you're going to live to be 100, but you not only will be alive, but you're going to be thriving, and you'll be sane and clear-headed and all these things.
That's right.
How long have you known that you would live to be 100?
And it is a knowing. It is just a knowing, a goal. I don't know when it came to me, but it was before my it was before the first diagnosis. And and then at some point when the Blue Zones became popular and the book came out, and now there's the movie or the docuseries, it was just always there. Like, I know I'm going to make it to 100 healthy and sane. And everybody's like, why would you want to do that? I'm like, because I'm going to be healthy and sane. And I'm going to be vital. I'm going to still be going. Maybe, yes. Okay. I'll be slower. Yes. I'll be, wrinkled, whatever. I'll be gray. It'll be different. Right. But I've got so many people in on this with me now. They're like cheering me on, and they know. And so I get a lot of, social media posts or things that people are like, look at this 100-year-old that did this, or the 101-year-old that's still doing that. So I get a lot of inspirational content, which is hugely helpful. And now in today's world, we are seeing more people make it to 100 with somewhat healthy and sane. And Yeah, I'm going for it. I'm like, I'm not giving up on
Mm-hmm.
that goal. I'm still going to do
Yeah.
it. And there's a book. The author is Ilchi Lee, and it says,
Mm.
I decided to live to 120. That's the title.
Wow.
I
Mm-hmm.
decided to live to 120. So
Mm-hmm.
apparently, science is starting to find, with all these biohackers on health and everything, that the
Yeah.
human body could potentially make it to 120
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
if we took care of it appropriately. So I'm
Yeah.
taking care of. I'm trying
Yeah.
to get there and paying attention to my physical health, my mental health, all
Mm-hmm.
of it, emotional,
Yeah.
spiritual, cognitive, playing the little games to keep my cognitive health good, and
Excellent. Do you do the
brushing
New
my
York
teeth and
Times? Like,
flossing, and yeah, the crossword.
yes.
I don't do
Yeah.
crossword puzzles and
Uh,
Sudoku, but I've heard those are good
uh-huh.
things to keep it going.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Funnily enough, I feel like last week I saw a social media post about these two female Chinese medicine doctors in China. They're still practicing, and one of them was maybe 102, and one of them was in her 90s, maybe like 95 or 96, and they're treating patients. And, it really struck me in Chinese medicine, they talk about like old doctors and they're revered for the life wisdom that
yes,
they've accumulated
yes.
over all these years. And I think that I hope that, when you're in your 90s, you're still you're
I know. I
still
hope so too.
seeing patients and and
Right.
and helping people and doing the work, obviously it'll evolve, but the kind of work that you're doing now, I think it's just so great.
Thank you. Yes, I hope to be doing
Yeah.
that too. I always say the
Yeah.
work I do isn't work. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel like work. And
Yeah.
I can see myself doing this for forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe not 4 days a week. Maybe I'll back off to two.
Yeah, yeah, nothing wrong with that. I
Yeah.
think one thing that we both share, and I feel like maybe I just came out of the womb. I'm a naturally optimistic person, and I do the positive reframe, and some of it is learned, like a gratitude practice, a gratitude
Mm-hmm.
journal, or it used to be when I would drive to my office, I would hit a street that where you could see the ocean, and as soon as I saw the ocean every morning, it was like a trigger for me to
Mm-hmm.
think of something that I was grateful for. But I think that nowadays, one thing that's sort of in the zeitgeist, people talk about toxic positivity, and as a fellow positive person, I'm wondering what you think of that term, or especially in the cancer space, like how, what are your reflections about toxic positivity?
Yeah, I have looked into that a little bit in the past and thought, oh my goodness, am I being toxic positivity? Am I
Me
guilty of
too.
that?
Me
Yeah.
too.
And
Yeah.
I've come to the conclusion that no, I'm not.
Yeah.
And I've checked in with colleagues and
Yeah.
later clients that they're no they've been through the whole program with me, and they end up becoming friends, or just there's
Yeah.
still in touch. And
Mm-hmm.
no, never been accused of having toxic positivity, because I think there's always room for hope. There's always
Yeah.
room for optimism. And if we
Mm-hmm.
don't think and focus more on the positive side of things,
Yeah.
then we're we want to focus on what we're going to get, what we want more of, right? So that
Yeah.
whole what you focus on is what you get.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I can hold the balance of, yes, this is scary and there's fear, and it
Mm-hmm.
it can end in a bad way for some people,
Mm-hmm.
but there's also opportunities here, opportunities to learn, opportunities to
Mm-hmm.
grow, opportunities to
Mm-hmm.
become a better person, to reprioritize life, to
Yeah.
a better way. And if we have that hope, and we
Mm-hmm.
can look forward into our future, like, I want to be 101, healthy and sane. I've got that
Yeah.
vision of myself, and I focus
Yeah.
on that vision of myself. And I feel like my 90-year-old self is going to say to my 50-year-old self, thank you for thinking that, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
it's going to help me get there. So,
Mm-hmm.
positivity and optimism definitely have a place. And it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that we can't have some negative thoughts, or be a little depressed or down or blue at times. Obviously, we're
100%.
human. We're
Yeah.
going to feel all the
Yeah.
feelings.
Yeah.
But the more we can focus on those positive emotions, the
Mm-hmm.
more of that we're going to get. So, like one of my favorite quotes from Dr. Turner's book, Radical
Mm-hmm.
Remission, the first one,
Yeah.
positive emotions are like rocket fuel for the immune system.
Mm.
So the
Love that.
more that you can have a positive thought, a positive feeling, even if it's
Yeah.
within a really down day, it still sends out a
Mm-hmm.
burst to your immune system and helps build up your
Yeah.
immune system so your body can do
Yeah.
what it's naturally meant to do. Yeah.
I think also having conversation that it's not just like a blip of a moment on a social media post. You see these social media posts of the beautiful people being all happy and going for chemo, and that's not their full story, right? We have an opportunity now to have a conversation that, we can explore the different sides of the emotional spectrum, and, we can say, yes, those moments in a hard day where you can be positive are so valuable for your immune system. But that's
Yeah.
not to minimize the fact that, we do all have hard days and fear and frustration and anger and all the things that could come up.
Exactly. Exactly.
And
Yeah.
you also mentioned Ellen Langer earlier, who,
Mm-hmm.
she talks about how your mind and your emotional state, it really does reflect, your body reflects
Yes.
those sorts of things. So I do think, the more that we can learn about ways to cultivate a positive mindset, it's so valuable and helpful. But yeah, I get a little triggered by that phrase, toxic positivity. And
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
wanted to explore that with you because I thought you would have feelings
Yeah.
about that
Well,
too.
and
Yeah.
with the increasing positive emotions and releasing suppressed emotions, it's all about
Yeah.
feeling all of the emotions, right? And there are
Yeah.
no good or bad emotions, so that's the thing we need to get
Yes.
away from labeling them as good or bad. They're just emotions. Now,
Right.
I like to call them high vibration and low vibration emotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we want more of those high vibration emotions that do build the immune system up, but it doesn't mean that we can't have the lower vibration emotions. We just need
Yeah.
to have them and process them and let them go. All of them.
Yes.
Don't
Yeah.
hang on to the happy and just try to be, I'm happy, 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 right?
Right.
Let yourself feel the sadness and the anger and the fear as
Mm-hmm.
well. But all of it
Yeah.
needs to be fully processed and let go of.
Yeah. And in Chinese
Yeah.
medicine, we would certainly talk about the yin and yang opposites. So, you will
Yeah.
experience the joy more if you experience the grief and the sadness. There are two
Exactly.
sides of, yeah. Don't go anywhere. Healthier Than Ever. We'll be right back. One small thing that's made a meaningful difference for me is starting the day with something simple and nourishing. I've put together a smoothie add ins plan with a few of the ingredients that I use most often, things like protein, collagen, flax, and greens. You don't need to use everything. You can start with one or two and build from there. If you'd like to explore it, you can go to htever.com/smoothie. That's htever.com/smoothie. And as part of this community, you'll receive 20% off anything you choose to order. One more tip: as a doctor of Chinese medicine, I always drink a warm tea together with my smoothie. As always, check with your medical team before starting anything new, and we'll have the link in the show notes. Another thing that I wanted to ask you about: I was diagnosed with stage 1 cancer in 2023, and it metastasized in 2024. And in that time, also, I was surprised by this metastatic diagnosis. I had a tumor in my abdominal wall. I had an infection there before, so it was sort of made sense, but it also wasn't a typical pattern of lung cancer to metastasize to that spot. So, and I was able to palpate this tumor. I never thought that it was cancer, right? It was just,
Mm.
yeah. But before I got that email with the scan results, I had Googled enough where, you know, how Google will automatically fill in a search result. So if I'm typing in something about lung cancer, it'll automatically say survival statistics. I'm like, I didn't want to look up survival statistics, but now that you put that in front of me, I click on it.
Oh
So and
no.
I also knew that from like these random accidental Google searches that when lung cancer metastasizes, it's stage 4. So when I got this scan result, I knew, and they said it's suspicious of a metastatic lung cancer lesion. I knew that that meant stage 4, and I knew that that meant survival statistics were low. So, you know, immediately, you know, I just went from 0 to a million in my emotional response to that. And I don't think that Dr. Google is a great idea, but now, I mean, that was so recent. It was only June of 2024. Now in 2026, it seems like so many people are on ChatGPT, which is a whole other level of information gathering. And I'm really curious about you and your patient population. Like, do you talk to them about ChatGPT and the ways that it can be used in a positive way and ways that you really want to be cautious about it?
Yeah, I'm no expert on it. I have used AI myself for different things.
Yeah.
And, you know, there are some AI platforms that are better than others. I don't tend to use
Yeah.
Chat GPT, Claude, or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Gemini or
Gemini.
DeepSeek or
Yeah,
there's so many of
within,
them.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is interesting to learn, you know, people are taking their scan results and running them through chat, you know, through these
Oh,
AI things to
wow.
see,
Yeah.
right? Because now
Yeah.
what's really interesting is now we get our scan results before we speak to our doctor. So it could be a week, could be a couple of
Yes.
days, or it could be, you know,
Yes.
2 weeks before we see the doctor. And here we are
Yeah.
reading these results and trying to figure out, what does this really mean? I've got more
Mm-hmm.
than one
Mm-hmm.
example of a client who read the results and then got into a deep state of depression and fear and
Mm.
anxiety because it sounded so bad. And then 2 days later, when she met with her doctor, he's like, "These are great. This is awesome." And she's like, "What?" And it's like, "Well, that was
Yeah.
scar tissue and this is that and this," you know. So he, you know, being able to read them differently and give a
Yeah.
perspective on them that she didn't have. So I have I have told my people in community that I think y'all should just leave the results in your portal until you get your doctor's appointment, because is it
Yeah.
really worth the anxiety that it provokes?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, I like to remind people too, this is just data. At one point
Mm-hmm.
in time, your body is changing every moment. And what
Yeah.
you eat changes what you do, and how you slept changes how
Mm-hmm.
your body responds. So just because you get a scan result that says X, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, I mean, that's probability. Ellen Langer, probability
Yeah.
too, right?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no guarantee. The scans, the blood tests, the things that can be done today are not a guarantee. So
Mm-hmm.
don't get so wrapped up in it. But when using I think you need to, there's a, be careful, right? We know AI is not
Yes.
perfect. Um,
Yes.
it's come a long way pretty quickly, or people are just using it more and trusting it more. But I think
Mm-hmm.
that we need to be really careful about how we're using it and what we're using it for. And
Yeah.
I highly recommend that nobody ever ask for their prognosis, and that if it
Mm-hmm.
starts to come out of their doctor's mouth that they, no, no, don't tell me, because
Right.
there is no way on earth that any one doctor could possibly know when you're going to die.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
We're all going to die at some point.
Right. Right.
That's a certainty. But
Mm-hmm.
when and how, nobody knows. And
Yeah.
when they
Yeah.
rely on the statistics, I also remind my radical remission groups that they're relying on statistics from the people that follow doctors' orders. Because those of us
Mm-hmm.
that go off and do all these things and get our remissions aren't being counted
Yeah.
in the statistics.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because
Right.
we often quit seeing that doctor, or that doctor is like, oh, well, good for
Yeah.
you. And then, like, don't you want
Right.
to know what I do? No. So,
Right.
so they don't
Right.
take the time to do the research into these people that are
Yeah.
having an unexpected outcome.
Yeah. Yeah. We're outliers or
Yep.
something like
Yep.
that. Yes.
Unicorns.
Yeah. Yeah. If someone listening today is newly or recently diagnosed and feeling sort of overwhelmed, what would you want them to know?
I would want them to know that it's okay to take your time. It's okay to slow down and not rush into any decisions. It's overwhelmingly the advice that the radical remission survivors give on our Stories That Heal podcast.
Mm.
It's not an emergency for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
There are
Yeah.
some cases that are emergencies, but for the
Mm-hmm.
most part, when you get a cancer diagnosis, it's not an emergency and it's not
Yeah.
a death sentence. So take your time,
Mm.
get your nervous system back down, rest and repair, and find the people that are going to help you and find the resources that are going to help you. But really don't rush into anything. Take your time making your decisions.
I think that's so valuable. And I think in my experience on the doctor side of things, there's so many patients who want to do everything right from day one.
Yeah.
And, I always see healing as sort of a journey and an evolution, and what you're doing tomorrow, I I I've seen it happen in that way. So I sort of have this deep knowing that you don't have to do everything immediately now. And so I think that is also, it kind of speaks to what we were saying about diet, that it doesn't have to be perfect in this
Exactly.
moment. It's an exploration. It's an evolving process. So I think that, yeah, giving people the grace to accept like time is,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's so important to remember that
yeah, I think
it
that's
is a
great.
journey. Yeah, yeah, would
Yeah,
agree.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, Karla, this has been such a thoughtful and meaningful conversation, and I'm really grateful that you joined me today to share both your story and your work. For listeners who would like to learn more about Karla Mans Giroux and the Radical Remission Project, can you tell us where to find you?
Absolutely. So the Radical Remission website is a great place to start, radicalremission.com.
Mm-hmm.
And we have coaches there. We have events there. You can take a workshop to learn more about the factors. You can read or listen to both books. There's also a docu-series. We
Mm.
train coaches to
Mm-hmm.
help people. And those coaches all have independent practices. So my practice, I'm an independent cancer health coach, and
Mm.
you can find me at healthnavs.com. That's Health Navigators.
Mm-hmm.
So healthnavs.com.
Perfect. Great.
Yeah,
And I'll put the link in the show notes as well to
fantastic.
both those things. And for listeners, if you found this conversation to be meaningful, please consider sharing it with someone who might benefit from it. And until next time, please take good care of yourselves and take good care of others. Thank you so much.